Hey everyone, I'm here with Sarah Cion today. I'm going to introduce her, and she's here to share a little bit about her new book and also some super music stuff. And so we'll dive into that and learn a little bit, and then she'll get a little chance to share at the end. Here goes. Let me introduce her first.
Hi, Andy. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Sarah Jane Cion is an internationally acclaimed jazz pianist known for winning the first place in the Great American Jazz Piano Competition and her trio's performances in Japan and on NPR's Piano Jazz with Marion McPartland. Her original compositions have been featured in Warner Brothers' The Mule and Marvel's Thor: The Dark World, and she has shared the stage with jazz legends like Clark Terry, Anita O'Day, and Michael Brecker. Sarah holds a distinction in composition and performance from the New England Conservatory and has authored a book on modern jazz and now a whole book series on how to learn to play the piano too. So, okay, here's Sarah.
Hi, Andy. This is so fun. Thank you so much for having me back.
You're welcome. Yep, she's been back already 2 times. So one video is already loaded to the channel at the point of us recording this, and another one's on the way. Here's number 3. So if you're seeing this a long time in the future, there's going to be 4 total. So poke around a little bit and find them if you're interested. Okay, so here we go with the first lesson, the third lesson. It's going to be about piano chords for beginners. If you're just getting started, here's a couple things that you might be interested in exploring. And Sarah's going to explain her approach, and I might throw a few things in there too about my approach to helping kids learn piano chords. And most of all, what to do with them when you have them. Okay, Sarah, question 5 questions, and here's the first one. What is the best time for piano students to begin learning about chords and chord progressions?
Great question, Andy. Okay, so I believe that as soon as a student is comfortable with basic note reading and single right hand playing, it's time to introduce the C triad. I think it's so important to get them doing that C triad ASAP. And it's basically after they've mastered maybe simple melodies, because it basically helps them build a strong foundation and makes maybe transposing and improvisation easier a little bit later on. Now, what about you? How do you feel about that?
I kind of like that because I heard a long time ago when percussion students, they're learning to play the snare drum and the bass drum and the cymbal, but then when do you introduce the glockenspiel? Well, my opinion and other people's opinion is like you don't want to wait too long, because then it's like you've got mastery over the other stuff, and then this is a new thing. Yuck, I don't want to have anything to do with it because I'm terrible at it. But if you're introducing everything at the beginning and introducing a piano chord, as long as they got 3 fingers to put on 3 notes, you can certainly say, here's the world of piano chords. You get one today. And then you just kind of add it like you're adding everything else. And then nothing is a new challenge. It's just adding on. So thumbs up for the first.
Exactly.
Yep.
And also, just something I want to throw in there is that some little kids really, like at the beginning, can only do 1 and 3, but that's great because guess what? If the thumb in the right hand is playing the C and they're playing the thumb and the third finger on G and E, that makes a whole triad right there. So
They just
I'm
need to
really
know.
good with that right there.
Yeah, they just need to know this alphabet letter means something, just like you only need to know the shape of the stop sign and the color, and stop. Doesn't have to have the word on it. You don't even have to know how to read it. You know what
Exactly.
it means. And they'll know CEG in any configuration. And later you can talk about, well, this is an inversion, but
Oh
whatever.
my
Okay.
God. Oh my gosh, Andy, I don't think I've ever used the word inversion with any of my kids. I kind of I think it was scared them away. But later on for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. Okay. Here we go. Question number 2. When learning to play, okay. Yeah. Oh, when learning to play chords, what are a few of the best songs to get started with and why?
Okay. So I would say any song at all. Okay, I know that's silly. Like later on when they're learning like maybe for teenagers or people 10 plus, stuff like simple things by the Beatles like Let It Be or Stand By Me. But way before that, when you're just teaching a kid, like even Itsy Bitsy Spider or the simplest classical piece, you can always teach them a one chord, which is the C, E, G, and a 5/7 chord, which could just be the F and G. I call them big chunks and little chunks. And they like that. I go, okay, time for the little chunk. And you can always put in a one chord or a 5/7 chord or a C chord or a G7 chord. So, that is why in my books, I will always put a empty bass clef, even if I'm just teaching the right hand melody, because as soon as they're willing and able, I'm going to write that C major triad right in there underneath. And I'll write that little chunk, that F and the G right underneath whatever melody is. If I hear that it could be going to a five, like let's say Itsy Bitsy Spider. The first Itsy Bitsy Spider is going to be a C chord. So I put it in there and then da 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 da, whatever the words are, you put that little 5/7 chord and then you can write in the one chord. So I just put it in right there with every single starting song that you could possibly get. So any song, you can harmonize any song with at least a 1, 4, or 5/7 chord.
Yeah. Yeah. So Beatles songs are simpler, more the more earlier ones, you're thinking?
Yeah, like maybe Hey Jude or something. I mean, here's the thing. A lot of the kids, they don't know those songs yet. So I would say more like, for example, I guess, it could be on, honestly, Andy, it could be on anything. I don't even think of specific songs. I just take the melody and harmonize whatever melody we're dealing with, like from the simplest basic melody. But if you're talking about like the Beatles, Hey Jude is a good one. Hey Jude
You
is the
got
one
like
chord.
three or four chords maybe.
Exactly. Da 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 da, five chord.
Yep.
Da 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 da, five chord, da da da, back to one. So it's like, and then you go to the four chord. So as long as you teach the one, the C chord, the F, which you can make super simple by just the F and the A, and then the little chunk, the F and the G for the 5/7, and back to the C triad, you can harmonize almost any melody, and it makes the kids so excited.
Yay. Yeah. So that's certainly for teenagers or Beatles fans, certainly go that way. If you're beginning and you're just in your first year and you want to jump in, I love hot cross buns. I've got a student that I'm teaching simple gifts to, and she's doing chord changes to that.
That's perfect. I've got
Yeah.
all those songs coming up in the advanced beginner book, and all of the chords are written in there.
Yeah. So just find something. Also, I love the We Sing series. I don't know if you're familiar with those books. They have the silly songs and the Bible songs
Aw,
and whatever, but there's chord. It's just basically a lead sheet. You get chords, melody, and lyrics, and you can go to town with either boom chick, and somebody else sings or you sing, or you can do melody in one hand and chords in the other hand. Yeah,
adorable.
yep, all those kind of things go down the road, no matter where you are. If you're in the very beginning, the first year, and it's hard to navigate anything, just hot cross buns is a great start. It's got two chords. Okay, yay.
Perfect.
Or if you only know one chord, 10 in a bed, find that tune. Yep. Okay. Um, what chord should students learn first? Oh, we're question number 3. What chord should students learn first and why?
Okay, this is cool. So, if you're going to talk about actual chords, I really recommend that students just stay in C for a while. You know what I mean? Just really want to stay in C. So, like we were discussing before, we want the C triad, and then you want to actually eventually call it the one chord, because if you do move it over to F, which is the next key that I usually like to teach, and you want to transpose it and then maybe move it to G, because those have either one flat or one sharp, and C has none of them, then you can call it the one chord and then you can use it in different keys, which works great for jazz later on.
Yeah.
But we're just starting in C. I say the C chord and then the F chord and the G chord. That's it. 1, 4, 5. I don't want to go any further than that for quite a long time. We
Yeah.
just want to use those three and really get a handle on them. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm totally with you that because I'm like looking at one of my students is still struggling to manage 5 notes in one hand. And if you're throwing chords on top of that when they're still struggling to memorize note names, more is too much. One,
Agreed.
my
Less is
first
more.
my first piano book, the primer that's on Making Music Fun, has C, D, E, F, G, and then only 3 notes, G, F, and C. That's all you get for the entire book. And that's enough for kids. Any more with some of the other popular books, and kids are overloaded.
100% agree with that.
Yeah. Okay. Yay.
Yay.
Okay. Question number 4. Um, most chord lessons outlines most chord lessons outline what is I don't know what I wrote here. Um, most chord lessons that I find online talk about chord formation, but they don't tell you what to do with chords. Nothing. So you're supposed to discern that from watching people play or listening or something, but that's a lot harder. So what's your approach to telling them what to do with them?
Okay, so basically, listen, we're talking about, I mean, the main bulk of my students right now are like 5 to 10. Then we've got a whole different slew of students, like 10 plus, and then of course the people that want to improvise. But if we're talking about the very basics at the beginning, we want to just keep the voicings like what I call I might tell them this term voice leading, which is like I always say, this is not Scott Joplin. We're not jumping around. I
Yeah.
don't want them to jump around like C, F, G. No, it's too hard. So I want them to keep the C, F, and the G super, super easy to move. So, like if you're doing the C chord, you're just doing the C, E, and G. And then if you're doing the F chord, you don't even have to move anything because your second finger is already on the F. You just have to move the thumb up one, and then you've got your F chord. And then you go back and you got your C chord. And then when you want to go to your G chord, you just play your thumb and your second finger. So I might have them play around with the rhythm a little bit on those chords, but honestly, like I don't want them to get too fancy. I want them to really, really master those chords in positions where they're not jumping around. So keeping it really simple, right in that C5 finger position. That's like you can do so much with that. You
Yep.
can harmonize almost any classical piece, even Chopin and Liszt, you can harmonize with the 1, 4, 5, 7, 1 chords. So once you got those down, you can kind of do the world. So I really just want them to get that down and have fun with it because you can make something sound really fancy with just a simple chord. And if you put the chord, maybe try putting it on beat 2 or not just on beat 1 and not just a whole note. You could try putting it on beat 2 and beat 4 for fun. So maybe like just experimenting with the rhythm a little bit. But I really don't mind if students play around with it. If we're learning like a small piece, whatever beat their left hand chunks the chord on, I encourage that. I'm not even going to get too picky. Like, just play it when you can and then see how it sounds and how it feels. And then later on, we can get into like doing the rhythm, but it's really mainly there just to support the melody. And if it sounds good, then they get lots of stickers for that.
Yay! Nice to go home with something. All right. Yeah, my approach is pretty much the same. I'm like, kids don't do well if they're jumping all over the piano, and especially in the beginning. So limited movements to grab the notes that you need is great. And
Exactly.
whole notes and half notes, just plunking down the chord for the whole measure is a great thing. Um, and and of course we've talked about keeping good time, and it's like nothing's worth anything unless you're doing that. Okay.
Thank you for saying that,
Yep.
Andy. Yes.
Yep. Okay. Question number 5. Some students like to compose their own songs. How do you introduce chords and chord progressions to these students?
Oh, I love this. Okay, so what I actually did in you know how in Harry Potter they say there's this one character and he's always saying in my book, and then they say on podcasts if you wrote a book, never say in my book, but in my book, just kidding. But I did create as one of my series a blank music paper book for children that are very interested in composition. It's the one with the green circle, and basically it's just blank music paper and it's 4 measures to a line. And I usually what I do is I just get them for my students and I say, all right. And I also have a whiteboard. Not that every teacher will have a whiteboard. I'm just lucky I teach at a school and there's a whiteboard. But I say, all right, I want you to create a little melody and then just experiment. Tell me if you like the C chord under it, or if you like the F chord or the G chord, or just start with the C and the G7 and try it. And you sometimes I have them write the chord and then I say, all right, now write a melody over the chord. So you can either start with writing a little simple melody and then have them put a chord, or you can have them start with writing the chord and then making a melody over it. But I want them to see that songwriting isn't necessarily about inventing entirely new material. It's about reinterpreting what's already there. So we're not reinventing the wheel. We're just encouraging creativity. And that's what I want to bring out. I want them to feel like they really have control over it. They can put their 2 cents in, and it's not so rigid where they just have to stick to somebody else's thing. And that's what I really want them to understand, that they can create their own melody and their own chord.
Yeah, doesn't have to be reinventing the wheel type thing. I mentioned a little note here about contrafacts. And so on one Making Music Fun video, we do a new twist on hot cross buns. And I'm like saying, well, music is usually, melodies are usually 8 measures long. Let's do that. And the hot cross buns use C and G. Let's do that. Let's keep
I
the
love
chord
it.
progression the same, which is what a contrafact is for folks that didn't know that before. And let's just write a new melody. And let's even model the melody in the same way. So hot cross buns, 2 measures, same 2 measures over again. And at the end, same 2 measures. There's only, in measure 5 and 6 is the only time something new is thrown at you. So we modeled that in the how to write a kid's song video. So it's just a little tweak on hot cross buns. I just say it's like baking cookies. You're just the same ingredients, just mix it up in a little bit different way. Maybe throw something new in. Throw
I
nuts into
love
that
it.
chocolate chip cookie. Yeah.
It's funny because your hot cross buns is my itsy bitsy spider, because that's
Yeah.
the one that I always go to. And the reason I like itsy bitsy is because I can also throw in some jazz, because I say, all right, now we're gonna swing the eighth notes. Sometimes I try to sneak it in real early, and I'm like, all right, itsy bits, because when they sing itsy bitsy spider, they don't realize that they're swinging the eighth notes, because that's how the song goes. So
Yeah.
then I'll make them do it straight, like a marching soldier, itsy bitsy spot. And then I'll go, okay, now do it how you hear it. Itsy bitsy spiders up the motor spout. And then all of a sudden I have them playing jazz
Oh
without them even
no.
knowing
Yeah.
it.
It's interesting. They've heard that rhythm, but it's like speaking a different language. Um,
Exactly. And they don't know what it is yet. I'm like,
yeah.
I snuck it in.
Yeah. Okay. Hey, so let's that wraps up our question time, and we're going to jump into sharing a little bit about books, Sarah's new book series, specifically one book, her theory book. So let's go to that. Hey, here we are, taking a look at Sarah's new book, the all-in-one piano songbook, Beginner Basics and Building Blocks. Do you want to share a little bit about this?
Well, I just tried to put a note and a word to every single note, and it's encourages rhythm, reading, rhyme, and I try to make it as fun as possible, even from the very first note. And I just want kids to enjoy it.
All right, let's dive in. Page number 2, discover the treble clef notes.
Well, we're not reinventing the wheel, but I do encourage kids to come up with their own fun mnemonics for the line notes and the spaces. You can't do much with the spaces because they spell face, but some of the line notes you can have different fun phrases like every good burger deserves fries, because we grew up with every good boy does fine, right? So
Yes,
there's a whole bunch of cute ones now, and I encourage the kids to come up with their own so that they can feel like they're part of it and they can really remember what each line stands for in terms of the note name.
sure. So that was page 2. This is a 212-page book, so it's really a comprehensive tool for the early young piano students. But we're going to dive into our selected third page. Fantastic F. Tell us a little bit about this.
So this is right after I introduce the eighth note. So now what we do is we have an opportunity to clap and sing at the same time. And like you and I both agree, rhythm is king. So we want to make sure that they clap and that they're in really good time, because so that's why we're just focusing on one single note. And that way they can focus on the rhythm.
Fantastic. Okay, fantastic F. Parallel motion. Tell me little about what you want to teach with this page.
Okay, well, this comes after we do the unison motion, which is where every note is the same, because we're now trying to introduce playing together with two hands, because that's piano, right? But
Yep.
sometimes we want to be able to harmonize. So we actually play notes, but they go in the same direction. So I say, all right, we're going to go up and then we're going to go down. But they're starting on different notes. So it's a thrill for them because they're playing in harmony. And it's not too difficult because every single note is going up in the same amount of time and down in the same amount of time. And it's just really fun. They get so excited because it sounds good to their ear.
Sure. All right. One more page and then we'll wrap this lesson up for today. This is the page that I picked out because I think it sort of embodied what Sarah's book is all about and what she's all about. Look at the big heart on her desk. Music is a world we create with our hands and our hearts. All right. Thanks for sharing a little bit again, Sarah, in this lesson. And we'll look forward to seeing you even in the lessons to come from her. So thank you for joining us today. Bye.
So much, Andy. Bye, everybody.